Hi, welcome again to the third part of my series about the birth, the life, and the death of my Christianity. I want to repeat something I said earlier that my departure from Christianity was a very slow and almost imperceptible process. It wasn't, there's nothing that I read, nothing that I saw that one day was like, I went from the light off to the light on. It wasn't. It wasn't like that. It was like walking out of a dark cave slowly towards sunlight. And however, I need to say that at the end of it, I experienced the sense of a surrealistic disorientation that comes with cognitive dissonance. For those of you who might not know what cognitive dissonance means, it means that mental challenge, that mental struggle, even emotional struggle, psychological struggle, that comes when you encounter beliefs or ideas that challenge your own, the ones that you have long held. And that's what was happening to me. And the conflict, the inner conflict that was going on, the just really the mental mess that I was going through. I felt like I was being the mooring lines were being taken off, and I was really adrift, because the set of beliefs that I held that had guided my life for nearly 2 decades were no longer valid, and so my entire worldview was beginning to change, and that is not a comfortable place to be. Some people will back away from that, and they'll just kind of retreat back to where they were, and they'll not even bother to think about that challenge ever again. They'll shove it away, and I think there are probably a lot of Christians who go through that. Maybe some of it, they might call it the dark night of the soul, or their season of doubt. But for me, I had to keep going, because once you know something, you can't unknow it again. And when I discovered that these things that I had believed were true were not actually true, I couldn't go back and pretend anymore. As I approached the last breath of my Christianity, I sat down at my dining room table one afternoon, and I opened a Bible for one last glimpse of hope for something truthful and rational that I could hang on to, something that was going to perhaps synthesize the doubts I was having with what I had subscribed to as a Christian. And so I started reading from the beginning again. My thing was, well, okay, let's start back at the beginning and see maybe if you can start the process all over again. But I got no farther than Genesis 9, maybe chapter 10, I'm not sure, but it was right in there. And I remember saying out loud to myself, this is complete bullshit. And I closed the cover of that Bible, and I never took it seriously again. In fact, I never undertook another serious reading from that point on. It was basically for just reference sake. Now, there was a big problem at this point, as you can well imagine, because remember, I was in full-time Christian service. But now I was a full-fledged, legitimate hypocrite for staying in Christian service, and I knew it. I copped to it. I take full responsibility for that. I was a hypocrite. I'm to say it out loud. But in the initial struggle with that, I finally sort of reasoned it out. I think we all have a way that we can start reasoning things out, to at least make them palatable, to us, give us some kind of justification for staying where we are. And so began to think to myself, well, now that I no longer believe, I still have to serve Christians on Sundays. I still have to go up front and say something. I still have to play a role. I still have to play a part. And I thought to myself, well, now I'm a paid actor. Because an actor has their own personal life off camera or off stage, but when they're in front of the people that they are to entertain, they play a part. They sing a song that will move people. They might engage in some sort of discourse or rhetoric that moves people, some sort of scene that moves people emotionally, to manipulate the emotions of people, to get them to believe that a make-believe scene is actually real. And I thought to myself, well, that's perfect. Because I didn't leave Christian service immediately when that happened, because I still had bills to pay. I still had a family to feed. I had been in this particular community for almost 2 decades. It wasn't just something that I could just one day walk in and say, well, that's it, I'm going away. So seeing the end coming, and I knew it was coming, I thought, okay, what am I going to do? I gotta start something. I gotta start blazing a new path here, cutting a new path. So I decided to enroll in business school, and eventually completed business school and earned an MBA. And it was near the end of my education, probably the beginning of the last semester, when I was approached by some influential people within the parish I was serving, and I was asked to resign. And I was a little bit taken back, because I wanted it to be on my time, but I didn't understand. I don't know, maybe people saw something different in me. I didn't understand how someone knew that I had, that I was now living secularly. But when I started meeting with those influential people, I started hearing back the same words that I had spoken to a Christian confidant a few weeks earlier over lunch, where I expressed some doubts that I was having and shared with this person some of the struggles that I was having, some of the contradictions I was finding, and the fact that I was really having some serious doubts. By then it was pretty much done, but I was having some doubts, and now I find out that I hear all of the things that I told him coming back to me verbatim. And so I knew where the breach was, which by the way, that just reinforced my distrust of most people. To this day, I don't really want to open up to a lot of people, which is, I guess it seems odd for me putting this series up for not doing this, but this is a catharsis for me anyway. Anyway, back to the story. I had been betrayed by a Christian confidant, and I am no longer bitter about that, but I'm very, very leery, particularly of people of religious faith in Christianity. I'm not sure that I can trust them, and so I don't really want to. I have family members that are still in Christianity, and that's all well and good. But I think as long as we don't talk about that, we'll be fine. But anyway, when I was in business school, toward the end, I came across a study by Professor Daniel Dennett and Linda Lascola, and it was a study called Preachers Who Are Not Believers. And I will go ahead and leave that link down below in the description box, or maybe in the comments. And from this, out of this, I did some follow-up after I read this study and discovered, holy cow, there are a lot of people, there were a lot of people, and I'm sure still are, in full-time Christian service that simply no longer believe. And so from out of this, I contacted and I was vetted very, very carefully. And I joined a secure online group who were members of something called the Clergy Project. And I'll post that link too, so that if you're curious about it, you can read about it, or maybe you just happen to find this video as someone in full-time Christian service who no longer believes, and I would definitely direct you there. Go ahead and click that. Go ahead and take that step, because I think you'll find a lot of support there. But at any rate, I found people from every Christian sect, all the way from Roman Catholics right down to Independent Baptist, fire and brimstone, suck back, spitting preachers. Every theological persuasion. There was, holy cow, there were Pentecostals, there were Episcopalians. I mean, you name it. There were clergy members and full-time Christian workers, like even, professional choir directors and things of that nature, who have a vested, their careers are tied up in full-time Christian service. In that group, they were many of them were in my situation, and there were some of those who, unlike most of us who decided we had to get out, there were some of those who made the decision to soldier on, and it was really tough for them to do that, but they had already invested too much to quit. Some were nearing retirement. They didn't want to run the risk of losing their pensions. They knew that there would be devastating effects on their families. They knew marriages were going to end. They knew that they were going to face really social ostracization that they did not want to face. It was just going to be too much, and so they decided to continue to soldier on. And I have profound respect for that, although I don't know exactly how they did it. I understand that some were really forthright about their the medications that they had to take. Some of them were really struggling with alcoholism at that time, just to try to take care of that inner struggle, and so they were getting help for other issues as well. So I found the Clergy Project to be of great help. After I resigned from full-time Christian service, and I burned everything that I'd ever written, just about everything I'd ever written. I think most of the journals I had all went up in flames. I thought, I'm just literally going to burn this bridge down. I'm just going to burn it away. So many, I left libraries of books, just thousands of dollars in books and stuff I left behind. I wanted nothing more to do with it. And so as I was in that transitional period from moving from full-time Christian work to a secular profession, I began getting professional secular psychological therapy. As you can well imagine, my marriage my marriage ended. My ex-wife to this day is still a committed Christian. That's fine, but it wasn't going to work. I literally lost just about everything that I had. So I sought out professional help. And if you're in a situation now similar to mine, or you're undergoing a transition from a life of Christianity or belief into a secular one, I really encourage you to go get professional help. Seek out a secular counselor. They can really do wonders. I learned through therapy. I learned. I put that entire past, began to see it more clearer. I began to put it in a proper perspective. I learned why I had attached myself to God and to religion. And if you go back to the first part number 1, I referenced that. In the passing of my dad, I sought continuity and connection. I didn't get closure when he passed away. So I was looking for that continuity, some kind of communication, some kind of hope that maybe I would see Dad again. That and the comfort that I found as a child in the Christian community, I turned back toward that again in that time of grief. And so those were the factors that really brought me into accepting the claims of the gospel at the age that I did. In therapy, I found ways to cope with my cognitive dissonance, my disorientation. I started, I really started to find my emotional footing again. I found my way back to authenticity. Because in the expectations and the demands that the church has of people, especially of those in leadership, they have certain expectations, behavioral expectations. They have, you've got to talk the right way. You've got to know the phraseology. You've got to know the Christian speak. You should do this, but you can't do that. And so I'd really set that part of myself aside to say, okay, you stay over here. I have to be this way. And I reconnected back to my authenticity. And it was a joy to go back and discover discover myself again. It really was a brand new life. And I know that sounds ironic to Christians. How can you stop being a Christian and find new life? Well, you're looking at someone who did. And so with everything falling apart in my life at that point, losing just about everything, I lost a lot of things financially, lost my housing, lost my marriage, but I was entering a new life. And I decided that, there was just only one, I couldn't go back, and there was only one way to go, and that was forward. So next time, part 4, that'll be the final part. I will end by talking about my views of mortality, my views on morals, and the materialist worldview. So until part 4 rolls around, you take care, and I will see you then.